District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Sheriff Todd Baxter, Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court, Paul C. Metzer, and James Finley Jr., Penfield Town Court. My name is Chris Chichester. I'm an innocent man. This is the Freedom of Information Law, which I've been using upon you relentlessly. You should know what I'm doing with this document because you're signing for it. And I'm sending it to you via United Parcel Service where it's tracked. So there are 70 in here on this January 10th. 70. Understand? And the number you will comply with is predictable. 0. Because you're corrupt. And I'm going to repeat the address to send me this information. Because this is my box, 620 Park Avenue. 620 Park Avenue. PMB number 361. Rochester, New York, 14607. And when I'm going to go in there and use this key, there's going to be nothing in there. What are the names of my prosecutors of silence? District Attorney Sandra Doorley. Now you listen to me, you pathetic diva. Do you understand what I just said? I don't know if you're listening to me. But the Deputy District Attorney, Perry Duckles, is copied on here. Perry Duckles, go to your corrupt boss and tell her that she's signing, or will receive, I should say, because it's tracked, the Freedom of Information Law. I'm demanding the names of my prosecutors of silence. And, Perry Duckles, how am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? How am I in jail 6 times and 6 times a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? Because of fanaticism and hatred and corruption and malevolence. And you're all those things. Todd, Baxter, Sandra, Joy, Alex Renzi, Paul C. Metzer, and James Finley Jr., and you do not know it. Corruption doesn't know it's corrupt. When Elliot Spitzer resigned in disgrace because he had sex with prostitute Ashley Alexander Dupree at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C., he didn't resign because he knew he committed at least an unethical act that prevented him from being governor of New York. And it's a criminal act to pay a prostitute, of course. Didn't matter to Elliot Spitzer that he met with a prostitute in Washington, D.C. He just knew that he could not withstand the attention from the media and the Assembly and the Senate calling for his resignation. And that's why he resigned. And then 5 years later, there he is running for New York City Controller, where he almost won because he received 48% of the vote. And that's extremely alarming. Elliot Spitzer didn't know he was corrupt. That's why I cite him. You, Todd Baxter, don't know you're corrupt. You, Sandra Doorley, don't know you're corrupt. And you, Alex Renzi, Paul C. Metzer, and James Finley Jr. don't know you're corrupt. Even though I'm telling you in the most precise language that I can summon why you're corrupt. It doesn't matter to you, Paul C. Metzler, that you and a Monroe County Sheriff Office employee with the last name Siemens decided I should be in Livingston County Jail in Geneseo. 2 people decided I should be in jail. What would you think if that happened to Aaron Doorley, employees at Psychopaths Incorporated, that's the district attorney's office? Because I walked to the Penfield Public Library. I don't know I'm being followed by 2 Monroe County Sheriff Office employees. I sit down at the computer. 2 Sheriff Office employees walk up to me. One is Siemens. I stand up. Siemens runs at me, clotheslines me, knocks me down. My head slams against ceramic tile. He picks me up. They take me down the hallway from the library my ex-girlfriend Laura Riley used to work in because we moved to Penfield because she's hired there. And I don't know Penfield Town Court's there. And down the hall waiting for me is $28,000 Paul C. Metzer. Without a prosecutor present, she declares me guilty, and then I'm driven to Livingston County Jail in Geneseo, where Regina Harper had to come and win my release of my freedom, for which I'll be grateful to her for the rest of my life, and Mark Phillips in the Public Defender's Office. Regina Harper and Mark Phillips really have what I believe is a monumental challenge because they have to face off against you psychopaths, the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office, every single day. And it is an office, I believe, that has limited resources. Your resources, giving your access to funds, is almost unlimited. You can do whatever you want. And doing whatever you want is the violation of the civil and constitutional rights of innocent citizens. My 50th birthday is July 4, 2015. And on that day, when I lived at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield. I have 2 speeding tickets. One in Albany, New York, which is dismissed when I went to court, and one in Washington, D.C., which was dismissed when I went to court. What do you think that says about me as a human being and how I comported myself and led my life? Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley, your answer is it doesn't mean a goddamn thing. And you wouldn't know anything about Albany and Washington, D.C. because your whole miserable lives have been in Monroe County. And what the hell do you know about life? So, it's January 10, 2023. This letter here you will receive UPS. This is what it says. Todd Baxter, District Attorney, 47, January 10, 2023. Sandra Doorley, District Attorney, 47 South Fitzhugh Street, Rochester, New York, 14604. Todd Baxter, Sheriff, 130 South Plymouth Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14604. Comply with the attached PDF dated January 10, 2023, that is 72 Freedom of Information Law documents. This includes the identification of my prosecutor's silence, mail the information I demand to the address on the foil. And then I attached the link from, I believe it's January 5th, where I called it accountability, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, and Judge Alex Renzi. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to call this for you Psychopaths Incorporated. But Todd Baxter, accusatory instrument for me for $67,000. Shannon Myers walked through the parking lot. I've walked through in Penfield 4,000 times. Am I New York's 4,000 time criminal, Todd Baxter? I don't know if you can see with the glare. It's 2 of my neighbors there. I'm walking through this parking lot for the 4,000th time, either on my way to Cam's Pizza or Gold's Gym or Wegmans, which I would go to every day, especially Gold's Gym, because I'd go there and use the treadmill and the bikes and the other equipment there. And a man named Neeraj Shah screaming at me. I walk up to him. We have this confrontation. I don't know why he's screaming at me. He is screaming, sitting in his vehicle at me. And I say, what's the problem? I'm trying to talk to him by saying, why are you screaming? And he continues to scream. So as I walk away, he is still screaming. This is what he doesn't tell $67,000 cop from hell, Shannon Meyer, that he began to scream at me and he did not stop screaming. So as I walked away, I gave him the official finger of Brooklyn, New York, which I'm giving to you, Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley, Alex Renzi, Paul C. Messer, and James Family Jr., with my back turned, and I told him to fuck off. And who uses profanity more than the cops, Todd Baxter? Do you use profanity every day? How many times in your 30 eternal years in law enforcement and grease at the sheriff's office have you used the word fuck or told somebody to fuck off, Todd Baxter? There is no profession in the United States of America where there's more profanity and swearing than cops. And this is an accusatory instrument for me for $67,000 Shannon Meyer, where she writes how I hurt the precious feelings of Neeraj Shah by telling him to fuck off. So this freak Meyer that works for you, pardon me, Todd Baxter, calls me after this confrontation. I speak to her for an hour. I have no idea she set me up, and that's the word. Do you walk through the parking lot? I say, yeah, just like my neighbors. That's why I continue to hold this up. Why do you want to walk through the parking lot? This is, I think, the first time I held the phone away from a year. I say to get where I want to go, and I go to Wegmans, I go to Target, O's, Cam's Pizza, Gold's Gym. Question after question like this. This is how she sets me up. She contacts Steve Desmond of Brock Tree Lawn Care. She says, ride your tractor by 26 Sanders Farm Drive where this Christopher Chichester lives. He comes out of his residence. We're going to arrest him. The problem with that, you skinhead, stooge, and party switcher, Todd Baxter, it's not a crime for me to walk outside, stand right here on this grass, and tell Desmond nobody owns Atlanta and walk by my residence. That's not a crime, Todd Baxter. That's not a crime anywhere in the United States of America, except in Penfield, New York, where I live, because of $67,000 Shannon Meyer. Now, do what I'm telling you to do, you skinhead, stooge, and party switcher. Call her into your office and ask her the details of which, for me, walk through this parking lot, the phone conversation. Ask her if she thinks it's a crime for me to walk through this parking lot. Ask her about her contact with Neeraj Shah, because he's a freak just like she's a freak. A 50-year-old man who lives with his 70-year-old mother. And I'm going to get to you, Paul C. Metro, about these orders of protection that you're writing for these two, Neeraj Shah and Layla Kumar Shah, when I had never met them. Because this has ramifications for me when I went to the YMCA in Penfield, which I believe I've talked about before previously, about this Layla Kumar Shah. But I'm going to go into more detail, especially when I contact the Department of Justice. You're using the order of protection upon me, Paul C. Meltzer, to humiliate me, just like John P. Lomenzo did with Jermaine Benman. So I'm going to go into more detail with that when I contact the Department of Justice. I'm going to write it down because I can talk for 60 minutes just about these vile order of protections. You're using taxpayer dollars from $28,000 skinhead widow for an order of protection to humiliate me. Nobody in my life has ever needed an order of protection from me. Every friend, every family member, every girlfriend, every acquaintance, every coworker would say that's not who he is. That's not his character. You're just using this order of protection upon me because you're sick and revolting. And you get a thrill out of humiliating people, Paul C. Metzler. And I'm terribly sorry about the death of your husband, Eric Metzer, in 2011. Paul C. Metzer. So, and what you're thinking there at the district attorney's office, sheriff's office, look at him pointing that finger at us here, and what kind of crime can we concoct for him to return him from jail? I'll tell you how you're going to do this. I'm going to tell you exactly how you get the handcuffs on me, you get me back in jail. You use Pretrial Services Corporation on me and Jamie Belliard. Because Pretrial Service Corporation is the 1984 office where if you don't make a phone call to them, Jamie Belliard or someone else at Pretrial Service Corporation can contact the court, sheriff's office, district attorney's office, the appropriate bureaucracy, and just because you don't make a phone call or go down there for a scheduled visit, you'll be back in jail. Because she had called me and left me a message on this iPhone saying, I haven't heard from you, when I had been calling her. And perhaps this is just a miscommunication. But when I got her message, I went right down there because I was in fear of being returned to jail because of pretrial service courts. Now, you listen to me, you pathetic diva, Sandra, Doorley, you Perry Douglas. Why is this thing called Pretrial Services Corporation? Because I don't have a trial schedule. The 1984 of Monroe County and this Pretrial Services Corporation, what do you think about the existence of it, Perry Douglas? Because I don't know anything about your career or when you went to law school. Pretrial Services Corporation, there's no trial schedule for me. If it's pre-trial and I have to call pre-trial, should I have a trial scheduled? The 1984 of Monroe County, this system of justice here that's an abomination where I'm being threatened with being returned to jail because I don't make a phone call or don't make a visit to Pretrial Services Corporation where I don't have a trial schedule. And I better be finished and done with Psychopaths Incorporated because you will use Pretrial Service Corporation, Jamie Belliard, somebody else down there to return me to jail. And when that happens, I'll be back on here. I'll say, I told you so. So, on this day, January 10th, it's coming to your office. It's been tracked. This is how I track it right here. This is who it's coming to in no particular order. Oh, I'm defended with honor and integrity by Regina Harper, so that's why I smiled. She came to Livingston County Jail in Geneseo. I'm there in this jail languishing in Geneseo. In Livingston County, I did not know Livingston County was in the state of New York, even though I know about 50 counties. And I'm told at Livingston County Jail that I'm there for my safety, that I can't be at Monroe County Jail. I'm going to this kiosk day after day, and I have to type my name in there. Sometimes it would take 15 minutes because you have to do it with your finger. And I'm saying when I'm going to be released, and no one's telling me. And I would go to the center of the jail and say, how long am I going to be here? How am I in Livingston County Jail? District Attorney Sandra Doorley, your prosecutor doesn't talk to court because of Paul C. Metzer. And then I'm asking the Livingston County Jail employee day after day, how long am I going to be here? And that's when Regina Harper, the Monroe County Public Defender, came to Livingston County Jail and met with me. And Regina Harper of the Monroe County Public Defender won my release, for which I'll be grateful to her for the rest of my life. Mark Phillips, the Monroe County Public Defender. Also, Mark, thank you for your representation for me. These are individuals with the highest character, integrity, morality, and you wouldn't know anything about integrity, morality, and character. Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley, Paul C. Metzer, James P. Jr., and Alex Renzi. James P. Jr., I'm going to get to you with Jessica Wagner and Jermaine Benham. Do you know what I'm talking about? I go to this gym, PW Fitness. I'm on the bench press. Jermaine Benham walks up to me. He goes like this. I say, I'll be 30 seconds. He stands over me, punches down. My head snaps back. We go out to the vehicle. Andrew Reale arrives. He knows me because of this parking lot. I wait in the backseat of the vehicle. Reale tells Benham, I want to press charges against you. That's what Reale tells Benham to say to me. He says, tell him you want to press charges against them. I've said this numerous times now, Todd Baxter. I'm sitting in the backseat of Andrew Reale's police vehicle, and your $79,000 employee concocted harassment second for me when he told Jermaine Benham what to say to me. Todd Baxter, try to process this in this revolting 1984 that you're in. If I'm hypothetically guilty of harassment second, there is a human being I have harassed. So who is it? Because I was in Monroe County Jail for this, because of John P. Lomenzo Jr. Do you understand when I use the phrase 1984? Because it's perhaps the most famous book of the 20th century by George Orwell. A 1984 is divorced from the truth and facts. And that's what you are, Todd Baxter. When I'm charged with harassment second, well, I've never harassed anybody in my life. And I'm in jail for it when a prosecutor doesn't talk to court. Perry Douglas, you're getting this. Perry Douglas, go to your corrupt boss so you can do this to yourself. Send to my UPS box, 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, 44604. The names of my prosecutors are silenced. I'm going to send you this transcript. Then when I contact the United States Department of Justice, Attorney General Merrick Garland's office, Trinity Ross again, I'm going to say, look, it's right here in the transcript that I sent to the district attorney's office where I'm demanding they disclose the names of my prosecutors, and you refused. Alex Renzi, Duke of New York, A#1 here, is in there just like Paul C. Metzer and James C. Molly Jr. There's Penfield Town Court, this little tiny room, without a jury, without a witness box for testimony, without a table for a defense attorney to defend. And then there's New York State Supreme Court, where the same thing is happening to me, where you're just compelling me and forcing me into a quorum to declare me guilty. And Alex Renzi has used the 730 mental health evaluation on me to humiliate me. I'm going to talk more in detail about that. That's an entire 60 minutes about him and the 730. You know what a 730 mental health evaluation is. Why do you think I'm here in Rochester, New York, in this loft near the Transit Center? Because I'm competent. And it is frightening how 730 mental health evaluation is being manipulated and abused because of the evaluator. So, Todd Baxter, you're getting this. It's just sexual harassment at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. What's the answer, you skinhead stooge, you party switcher? Is your answer no? That in the entire time you've been in office, since your Nuremberg rally in January 2018, there's no examples ever of sexual harassment. Is that your answer? Go with that, because you're drenched in lies. Sandra Doorley, 47 South Fitzhugh. It's just sexual harassment at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. What's the answer, Sandra Doorley? Is it that there's not a single event, incident of sexual harassment at the District Attorney's Office your entire internal time at the District Attorney's Office? When I was a young man, I worked in the press office for Senate Majority Leader Ralph Marino. This is for 4 years. I started that job when Mario Cuomo was beginning his third term in office. And I was sitting there, and my colleague Olivia was in front of me, and an older man who was a state Senate staffer came into the press office. I sat there. He walked up behind her, and he put his hands on her neck, and he started rubbing her neck. And I'm looking at this, really for me, in horror. And he walked away, didn't say anything, and she was frozen on her desk. That's not sexual harassment where it's repeated phone calls and jokes that are laden in misogyny and profanity. But this man who had his hands on her the way, this is the first time that I had seen behavior like this, where I was really shocked. Like, how does he have his hands on her? Is that kind of behavior going on at the district attorney's office, which is an office? Because at the sheriff's office, you're outside. There are 500, perhaps 1,000 different ways that you can engage in sexual harassment right there at your district attorney's office, sheriff's office. So what's the answer? Is your answer, Sandra Doorley, that there's no sexual harassment? Is your answer, it doesn't matter, you don't care? Michelle Crowley, you know the answer. How do the male employees comport themselves at the district attorney's office? You're not just any hack at the district attorney's office, Michelle Crowley. You're the director of the grand jury. And I'm indicted when, one, I don't know the grand jury convenes, and two, you don't call me as a witness. Why didn't you call me to your grand jury, Michelle Crowley, when Houlihan purged himself to the grand jury? I do not know Houlihan's first name. Do you know what I'm talking about? There better be a transcript of the grand jury that indicted me. Michelle Crowley, I will write a Freedom of Information law about where the grand jury was convened, the names of the grand jurors, and other information. I leave my residence at 26 Sanders Farm Drive, walk alongside my residence at midnight. Houlihan and Don Benedetto come running at me, I turn around, I run away. I never stop running. Houlihan and Benedetto chase me up onto my back porch. I grab the hammer alongside the back porch. As I'm about to run through the sliding glass door, Houlihan grabs my arm, the hammer goes up, I run away, and this is on the body cam. I never stopped running. As I never stopped running, I could not swing a hammer at Houlihan. And if I wanted to swing a hammer at Houlihan, Houlihan would have been unconscious right next to my back porch. You convene a grand jury that I don't know is convened, and Houlihan states I swung a hammer at him, and that's the act of perjury by Houlihan at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Michelle Crowley, and respond to what I just said at 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604. And what I'm going to hear from you, Michelle Crowley, is total silence. Trinity Ross, the United States Attorney. I have not yet contacted her yet with 5,000 words or 10,000 words that I'm going to write, but I'm sending her the links to the YouTubes that I'm on. Trinity Ross received this right here, where it says accountability. All she has to do is go to YouTube and type this link in here, and she can see what I'm talking about while I'm contacting her. So Trini Ross received this. And I added you, Perry Duckles. You're on here. Perry Duckles, contact me and tell me the names of my prosecutors. Quote, the prosecutor's not backing down. That's what Regina Harper said to me about my scheduled appearance before Paul C. Metzger. Where the prosecutor not backing down is not backing down in total silence. I walked up to him in Pemberton Town Court. I said, you're going to stand there in complete silence? Not one word. He stared straight ahead. I was in his ear right here. I said, you're not going to say anything? Total silence? That's exactly what it was. What's his name? He should be disbarred for what he did to me. The grievance committee for attorneys to disbar an attorney is on East Avenue. And that's where I'm going to go. But I cannot go to the grievance committee and begin to disbar every attorney assigned to my concocted charge of fiction and lies from your offices if I don't have the names of my prosecutors assigned. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk to court? Perry Duckles, what would you think if a friend or family member was in jail without a prosecutor talking to court? Perry Duckles. I'm evicted from my residence. I slept in a park for 3 weeks. I'm buying things that I never thought that I would buy. All my clothes are gone because I was locked out of my residence. I slept in Harris Roland Park for 3 weeks. My ex-girlfriend, Laura Riley, took all my things to a storage locker in Webster. She contacted my sister, Barbara Stematakis of Glenwood, Maryland. Barbara paid for the storage locker, and then she didn't pay for the storage locker, and everything's gone. So I have to buy clothes. This came in the mail today from Amazon. All my jeans are gone. I have about 20 jeans, all gone. So I bought a pair of jeans today. So, did you go out at night in Rochester, New York? At District Attorney's Sheriff's Office? I don't know where you live. You can live anywhere in Monmouth County. But since I live in Rochester, I'm coming back from one of these convenience stores on East Avenue. I'm about to go into my building here on Pleasant Street, and there are two men standing right at the door. Well, I cannot get in. I cannot use what's called a fob to get in. They're standing right there. And it's about 9 o'clock at night. And I said to these two loudly, I need to get into my building. And after this situation, these are the transit center freaks. I thought I need to have something on me in case something like this happens again. These freaks are at the transit center. Do you know Todd, Baxter, Sandra, Doorley, St. Paul, and Clinton? That the transit center freaks are out there. And when I say they're freaks, this is what a freak does. Language requires precision. A human being standing outside screaming at another human being all throughout the day, that's a freak. That's why they're freaks. They're out there doing other things too. It could be alcohol use, or drug use, or anything like that. But human beings standing outside and screaming at each other are freaks. And that's what happens at the transit center. And right across from the transit center on Clinton is the city of Rochester garage for the police vehicles. And I have never once seen a city of Rochester police officer anywhere near the transit center, despite the fact that Armani Allen was murdered by twin brothers Donald and Ronald Brown right outside the transit center. Mayor Malik Evans is so clueless and divorced from how policing should happen in Rochester. He doesn't have his police officers on foot in Rochester, New York. A police officer on foot will elevate the safety of the citizens of Rochester. Instead, they're isolated in their vehicles. And that's why a reason why Donald Brown and Ronald Brown beat to death Armani Allen right outside the transit center, where the police vehicles for the city of Rochester are located. So after this situation with these two men who were standing in my doorway, I cannot get in. And I said to them, I need to get into my building. I decided to buy a product that I have on my belt that's concealed. And this is it right here. This is what I carry around with me. I'm not trying to be dramatic. Anybody in Rochester, New York that doesn't have something like this past 9 o'clock at night is insane, given what's in this city and given what I see in this city. So I hope I never have to use that in self-defense. And what you're thinking is this a crime that he's committing here? And how do we arrest him for what he's saying to us in 24 minutes on this YouTube? And how do we get him in front of one corrupt judge, just declare him guilty for anything he said or done on this YouTube? And when I bought that product for self-defense, never, never, never give up. Churchill. That's what I have to motivate me. from Psychopaths Incorporated. I have never committed a crime, and that's why a prosecutor has never talked in court. And what are the names of my prosecutors of silence? You pathetic diva, Sandra Doorley. My name is Christopher Chichester. I'm an innocent man. This is the Freedom of Information Law that's arriving in your offices in the next 24 to 48 hours. Total number of contracts signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley to purchase products, commodities, goods, materials for the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Does this need clarification? There's corruption in contracting. How do you get your desks, your chairs, your pens, your pencils, your pads, your computers? Who's the vendor? Freedom of Information Law. The contract signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley, the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, to purchase vehicles for the Monroe County District Attorney's Office to include: 1, the name of the contract, the total amount expended in tax dollars, the total number of vehicles by make and model. Do you drive yourself into the office? I've asked this previously. I'm going to get to that for a while. How many vehicles do you have at the District Attorney's Office? Who's the vendor? How much did you pay for them? Freedom of Information Law. Contract signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley to purchase: 1, an automobile and automobiles, a driver or chauffeur for District Attorney Sandra Doorley, 3, office supplies. This is general language, and you refuse because it's general language. Are you driven into the office from your residence in Webster, Sandra Doorley? Do you drive yourself just like an ordinary New Yorker? What's the answer, you pathetic diva? I believe I know the answer. Since I don't believe in speculation, you tell me if you drive yourself into the District Attorney's Office, or if the taxpayers in New York are driving you into the District Attorney's Office. Corruption in contracting, Todd Baxter. Since you're corrupt, I believe that there's corruption in contracting. So I'm going to tell the controller of the state of New York, Thomas B. DiNapoli, too, that you're refusing to answer. I do not believe that you can withstand an audit from the controller of the state of New York. If you're audited at the District Attorney's and Sheriff's Office, I believe he absolutely will find unethical practice. I do not know about criminal practices. I also believe that you're audited at the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office. The findings of such an audit can force your resignation. Freedom of Information Law. The number of contracts signed by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter to purchase products, automobiles, goods, materials for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. This is the firearms. Your employees are walking around with that weapon that can be used on innocent citizens at any point. But there's an arsenal at the Sheriff's Office. You got long guns, you got rifles. What else do you have? And what you think is there's no accountability for you. What I mean by that is you don't have to answer any questions. Every single weapon at your revolting Sheriff's Office is because of the taxpayers of Monroe County, state of New York. What are the weapons? Tell me and account for every single weapon. Sheriff Todd Baxter, Freedom of Information Law. The contract signed by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter to purchase firearms from Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees to include: 1, the name of the firearms contractor; 2, the number of firearms purchased; 3, the total amount taxpayer dollars expended to purchase firearms. It's as clear as it can be. What's the answer, Todd Baxter? Now, this is the inventory of weapons, as I call it. You have long guns, you have rifles, you have handguns. There's no doubt about that. But what else do you have? What you're thinking is looking and pointing that finger at me, and how do I get him in front of one corrupt judge to declare him guilty of something that the District Attorney Office concocts for him? And perhaps we should call Pretrial Services Corporation, even though he doesn't have a trial schedule, and talk to Jamie Belliard to see if he's checked in when he's been told he doesn't have to, and then we can return him to jail using Pretrial Services Corporation. Freedom of Information Law. An inventory of weapons at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office by the number and type of weapons. That is: 1, identification by brand name; 2, types of weapons that are automatic and semi-automatic; 3, types of weapons that are handguns and long guns; 4, the total number of weapons; 5, the name of the weapons contractor and total amount tax dollars of the contract. I'm going to write this down because of my handwriting, which is poor. So when I write a Freedom of Information Law, you will be able to see the typing of it if there's any confusion as to what I wrote. But I just said it here on YouTube. And if you have questions, you can contact me right here, 813-648-4441. And leave a message here on my iPhone right here and tell me how you want to get me in front of one corrupt judge like Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, where he's one of the 18 at the hackocracy, and he gets just declare me guilty of something that you manufactured at the District Attorney's Office. Then you keep me in there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months, however long you want. Well, I'm not told how long I'm going to be in jail. It's as clear as it possibly can be. If you have questions, call me, and I'll write in a different way. How do you explain this to Thomas P. DiNapoli when I think I've read this now 4 or 5 times? I should be able to contact him in the next 4 weeks, I think. Because I'm going to continue to do this to you on YouTube. And then when I get to the point where I contact Thomas P. DiNapoli, I'll probably read this another 5 or 10 times. Every single weapon at that revolting Monroe County Sheriff's Office is courtesy of the taxpayers, Todd Baxter. Freedom of Information Law. Contract signed by Sheriff Todd Baxter of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to purchase vehicles for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to include the name of the contractor. 2, the total amount expended in tax dollars. 3, the total number of vehicles purchased by make and model. This is not just any vehicle. Your vehicles have to be specially manufactured for high speeds. For the obvious reason is that if you have a stop, a criminal will try to escape from the stop. I used to see this on these TV shows with these horrendous chases where the officer behind the wheel and the officers are placing their lives at risk. So you have to have special vehicles. This is not a Toyota or a Yugo you got there at the sheriff's office. So what's the contract for the vehicle, Todd Baxter? Do you think you don't have to answer? And the answer is yes. You believe you don't have to answer. That's why you're corrupt. This is the search warrant when I got out of Livingston County Jail. I don't know that the fanatics, sociopaths, degenerates, and psychopaths at the sheriff's office like $91,000 Leela Roker on my residence. You went into my residence, $91,000 fat girl Leela Roker, because $28,000 Paul C. Metzer, without any probable cause, wanted my Chromebook and wanted other property. Where's my Chromebook, Leela Roker? You went to my Chromebook, you're reading my emails, you went to the hard drive, you're trying to concoct the crime for me using my Acer Chromebook, and where's my Chromebook, you $91,000 fat girl? What's the probable cause to be in my residence, Paul C. Metzer? So I'm going to tell the Office of Court Administration, Senate Judiciary Committee, House Judiciary Committee in Washington, D.C., in my eternal quest to remove you from that little room, there's no probable cause, no reason whatsoever for Paul C. Metzer to write a search warrant for Leela Roker to be in my residence. There's certainly no probable cause to take my property out of my residence. And where's my Chromebook, Leela Roker? Freedom of Information Law. Documentation by $28,000 Paul C. Metzer in Penfield Court that is a quote search warrant, end quote, to allow $91,000 Leela Roker, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, to enter 26 Sandra from Drive, Penfield, New York, for the confiscation of the Acer Chromebook owned by Christopher Chichester, lunatic fringe. I'm going to get the more lunatic fringe. Your entire existence is lunatic fringe. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation signed by Penfield Town Court Judge James Melly Jr. for the case of defendant Jermaine L. Benman with the assigned employee at the District Attorney's Office, Assistant District Attorney Jessica Wagner. Jessica Wagner is acting as the de facto defense attorney for this Jermaine Benman who violently attacks me, where he commits this violent crime upon me at a gym. Now 1 second in jail for him because your employee, Jessica Wagner, at the District Attorney's Office, Sandra Doorley, embraced violence. Paul C. Metzer is sitting in Penfield Town Court writing warrants for my arrest as one person trying to send me to jail. And this is how I know this. When I walked into the Penfield Public Library, I sat down, and Siemens and the other psychopath from the sheriff's office followed me in there. And Siemens ran at me, knocked me down. My head hit the ceramic tile. The handcuffs went on. When I was being frog marched out of the library, Siemens said to me, this was his words, you have 12 warrants for your arrest. Because $28,000 skinhead widow, Paul C. Metzer, was sitting in little Penfield Town Court as one person deciding I should be in jail. 2 people decide I should be in jail. Siemens, who violently attacks me, and Paul C. Metzer. How is this possibly constitutional? And how do you explain yourself, Paul C. Metzer, to avoid resignation? Freedom of Information Law. A copy of every warrant for the arrest of Christopher Chichester, 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield, New York, by Penfield Town Judge Paul C. Metzer. Do you know where to send it, Paul C. Metzer? UPS, 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604. Freedom of Information Law. Number of employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, arrested for driving while intoxicated. What's the answer, Todd Baxter? You can make that go away. Number of employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, arrested for driving while intoxicated. What's the answer, Sandra Doorley? You can make that go away. Number of employees at New York State Supreme Court, 99 Exchange Boulevard, Rochester, New York, arrested for driving while intoxicated. When I went to the Magistrates Association, I saw these pictures of Alex Renzi on there. he was drunk. There's no doubt about it. I had previously said he may have been drunk. He was drunk. So I said to him in New York State Supreme Court, are you an alcoholic, Alex? Because I'm trying to enrage him. I don't know. He could be a sober man and live a good life. I have no idea. I'm trying to enrage him. Because when judges are enraged, they'll even smash your civil and constitutional rights into another million little pieces. The number of employees of Penford Town Court 1985 Bad Road, Penford, New York, arrested for driving while intoxicated. What's the answer, Paul C. Metz and James McNally Jr.? You don't have to answer that question, as you're in there with 6,000 votes. Paul C. Metz, what a joke. When I say you don't have to answer that question, you don't have to answer that question from the media, the voters, anybody. So I just asked you, what's the answer, Paul C. Metz? Todd Baxter, sick days from January 2022 to January 10th, 2023. How many times have you been sick? You do whatever you want. It's not only you, Todd Baxter, the total number of sick days for your employees. You, as the duly elected sheriff, don't even have to go into the office, which I believe that's what Sandra Doorley does. How many sick days have you had? Freedom of information. The total number of sick days used by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter from January 1, 2022 to January 10, 2023. Freedom of information law. Total number of sick days used by District Attorney Sandra Doorley from January 1, 2022 to January 10, 2023. Is it 15? Is it 30? Is it 60? Is it 0 because you're at home in Webster? You know the answer. Perry Douglas at the District Attorney's Office. You know the answer, Michelle Growley at the District Attorney's Office. Does your boss, Sandra Doorley, go into the office for a standard 40-hour work week, 9 to 5, or she ensconced in a room in Webster, New York at home? Elected officials, where I have worked, as U.S. Senate staff and U.S. House staff and Assembly and Senate in Albany, cannot control themselves as far as nepotism and patronage. They are obsessed with nepotism and patronage. Nepotism is finding jobs for your children and your friends and your relatives. That's nepotism. Patronage is finding jobs for people you know, who you know of life. I'm more concerned here with this freedom of information law, and I'm demanding it, about nepotism and minors. Do you have minors at the district attorney's office on the payroll? That I don't know. I'm absolutely convinced you have minors at the sheriff's office on the payroll, and all those minors related to Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees. So there's two different kind of minors for you, Todd Baxter. There are minors and then the nepotism minors. And what's the answer? And this is what I'm going to encourage Thomas P. DiNapoli, the controller of the state of New York, in the Alfred E. Smith building in Albany, to ask you. Nepotism enrages voters. This can remove you from office. Freedom of information law. The number of minors on the public employee payroll of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. If you have 50 minors on the payroll, you cannot remain in office. Even if they're not related to any Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees. The number of minors on the public employee payroll of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office related to Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees. Minors and nepotism minors. Is your skinhead confused? Answer me. You won't answer because you're corrupt. Even though I'm saying this to you, even though I'm going to send this to your office, and you will eventually get the transfer. You're going to get the transcript of everything. Not now. But I'm going to send this link to you. Registered mail return receipt. What I'm saying to you now will arrive at your offices, either UPS or registered mail return receipt at the USPS. You're going to get it. Because this is what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice about you. Everything I'm reading. And the control of the state of New York about nepotism of minors. Freedom of information. The number of minors on the public employee payroll of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. So, it is a good thing if a high school student is at the District Attorney's Office with a small stipend, perhaps $1,000, and that high school student wants to go to law school and wants to understand the law. If you have 30 minors on the Monroe County District Attorney's payroll, that's not a good thing. If you have 30 minors on the Monroe County District Attorney's payroll and they're all related to Monroe County District Attorney's employees, you, Sandra Doorley, cannot remain in office. You'll have to resign. So what's the answer? Number of minors on the public employee payroll of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. Freedom of information law. Number of minors on the public employee payroll of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office who are related to Monroe County District Attorney's Office employees. If there's confusion about what I'm demanding from you, 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604, 813-648-4441. And now, Todd Baxter, a sense seems to wait for me here at 620 Park Avenue. Before I walk in there, he can run up to me and attack me, and my head will slam down against the concrete pavement. And then if he has another fellow psychopath with him, that guy can kick me when I'm down on the ground. Because that's what happened to me at the Penford Public Library. Conviction Integrity Unit. 62 counties in the state of New York. How many district attorneys have what you have at the district attorney's office? In the state of New York, there are public meetings laws. If this unit meets, is subject to the public meetings law. I do not know if this is your fiction and fantasy and you're just trying to inoculate yourself from innocent citizens being in jail, and then you got together with the district attorney's office and decided to create this unit that doesn't do anything, and it's just on your website. This is on your official website, and that's how I know about it. Does the conviction integrity unit have members, and how many members? And does it meet? What's the answer? Because if it meets their public meetings law, and where did it meet, and what did it discuss, and was there a transcript? This is a foil I'm going to write. But right now, this is the foil I did write, and tell me the answer. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley to create a, quote, conviction integrity unit, end quote, within the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Freedom of Information Law. The minutes of every, quote, conviction integrity unit meeting at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office of District Attorney Sandra Doorley. You, Todd Baxter, have a podcast, which is a joke. Why are you behind a microphone with one of your employees interviewing you? So the employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office that interviews you also has to function as the producer. The producer is responsible for the dissemination of the interview and setting everything up. Behind the badge with SL, I'm trying not to laugh at you, you stooge, buffoon, and criminal. You should be in your office doing your job. You shouldn't be flagellating yourself behind a microphone. Have you ever said the phrase, Todd Baxter, we went through doors together? Because psychopath cops love to use that phrase. Have you been behind the microphone and behind the badge talking about how you went through doors together in your 30 eternal years as a police officer where you've wasted your life? Freedom of Information Law. Does Sheriff Todd K. Baxter allow compensatory time to employees that have worked time beyond the standard 40-hour work week that is not, quote, vacation time with the Monroe County Sheriff Office is paid? In Albany, when I was a state Senate staffer, compensatory time is every hour beyond the 40th hour. So if you work 50-hour week, 3 weeks in a row, that's 10 hours. You have 30 hours of compensatory time, and that accumulates. You can work on a campaign. How is your personnel management as far as what happens beyond the 40th hour? Can employees just take compensatory time off? What's the answer, Todd Baxter? Same thing with the district attorney's office. Does district attorney's freedom of information law? Does district attorney Sandra Doorley allow compensatory time to employees that have worked beyond the standard 40-hour work week that is not, quote, vacation time, end quote, with the Monroe County District Attorney's Office employees paid? This is so easy to understand. I received it from Paul C. Metzl with nothing on it. So what's the problem, Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley, and Alex Renzi, and James Finley Jr.? Freedom of information law, personal financial disclosure of Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. Freedom of information law, personal financial disclosure of supervising judge, New York State Supreme Court, 7th Judicial District, that is Alex Renzi. Personal financial disclosure, Penford Town Court Judge James Finley Jr. How do you discipline your employees, Todd Baxter? As a veteran, you know about the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the Article 15, and the courts martial. So what's the disciplinary process? Your employees violate the civil and constitutional rights of innocent citizens, and I believe you have no disciplinary process. Your employee, Brandon Cadiz, commits a robbery, and you fired him for it. It's the type of human being you have at the sheriff's office when Brandon Cadiz is in your employ. And Brandon Cadiz, there are the so-called warning signs where he's getting ready to commit that crime. So what's the disciplinary process, Todd Baxter? You have none. Freedom of information law. The internal disciplinary record documentation for employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter is reprimanded, terminated, disciplined employment at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's a siren going by. And the thing I'm also surprised about, not shocked, is the number of sirens that go by where I live here in downtown Rochester next to the Transit Center in Pleasant. Because I live right next to the United States Capitol. And I lived on Winthrop Avenue in Albany, near SUNY, and I lived in downtown Albany on State Street, right in front of the Capitol. There are no sirens going through Albany, New York, like in Rochester, New York. There are no sirens going through Washington, D.C., right in the heart of the Capitol. There's sirens going through the city of Rochester all day long throughout the day and at night, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and right now. And I believe it's because of the violence in the city of Rochester that you, Todd Baxter, not doing a damn thing about. If you fire employees at the district attorney's office? That's what I'm attempting to find out. Should you fire an assistant district attorney who doesn't talk in court as a defendant is delivered to jail? The answer is yes, Sandra Doorley. The answer from you is no, because you're corrupt. Freedom of information law, the internal disciplinary record documentation for employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, that District Attorney Sandra Doorley has reprimanded, terminated, disciplined employment at the Monroe County Sheriff's District Attorney's Office. The name sounds of every public employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter. I'm going to write that in 6-month periods, see how you deliver raises. Freedom of information law, a list of every public employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office by length of employment years, the day, month, and year the employee is hired. This I received from the District Attorney's Office. You pathetic diva finally complied with the law, but why didn't you, Todd Baxter? Length of employment leads to corruption. You have your employee at the jail, who I believe is in the vicinity of 70 years old and has probably been to sheriff's office for 40 plus years, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know this man, Todd Baxter. You have to know him because he's 70 years old. He's in that vicinity. He is shrinking in his uniform. Todd Baxter, send me a list of every employee when you hired that employee or your predecessor sheriff, who was in there for 16 eternal years, and the day, month, and years the employee's hired. Do you forcibly retire employees to the sheriff's office? The answer is no. Length of employment leads to corruption. That's why I'm demanding that. This is overtime, time and a half that I just talked about previously. How's it done? Is it compensatory time, or is it a formula or a calculation where your employees could double their salaries? I don't know. Tell me the answer, Todd Baxter and Sandra Doorley. And exists in that stone cold silence of corruption. Freedom of information law. Total cost of overtime, time and a half, while paid by base salaries calculated at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for Sheriff Todd Baxter. Freedom of information law. Total cost of overtime, time and a half, while paid on base salaries calculated at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. If you have your employees that are paid $75,000 and that employee with overtime has a salary doubled to $150,000, that employee's making more money than you, Todd Baxter. Your salary is set in statute $132,599. Are you paid overtime, Todd Baxter? If you're paid overtime and you accept overtime, in addition to your salary set in statute, you cannot remain in office. You'll have to resign. Tell me the health of your employees, Todd Baxter. This is how you do it. Freedom of information law. Total number of sick days, the total number of hours employees at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for Sheriff Todd Baxter have accumulated by one the number of sick days, the number of hours. Bosses keep track of these things. Even bosses in large institutions with 300, 400, 500 employees. What's the answer, Todd Baxter? You don't think you have to answer anything. You're not accountable to any citizen. District Attorney Sandra Doorley. You keep a list of employees that have called in with sick days. Lost hours at the district attorney's office is money paid for by taxpayers because you have to have employees cover the work of the employee that's out sick. So, freedom of information law. And I believe if there is such a list, you're going to be number one on it, Sandra Doorley. The total number of sick days, the total number of hours employees at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office of District Attorney Sandra Doorley that have been accumulated by the number of sick days, the number of hours. What is not to understand here? You do fail to understand. And you think you don't even have to comply. And who's this citizen demanding this information from us, even though you're signing for it? I will tell Controller Thomas P. DiNapoli to investigate this. And when you even tell the Controller of the State of New York, you don't have to answer, you don't have to comply because you're corrupt. Sick days is lost time. Sick days is the taxpayers of Monroe County, State of New York paying for sick days. What's the status of employees losing time at work, the district attorney's office, sheriff's office, because of sick days? Here's Duke of New York A number one here. He's going to look at this and think, I've never been asked this before, which is, I hope he's going to think that. I don't like to make predictions, but he's a public employee, tax dollars, $208,000. Does he go into this court, or does he just show up when there are defendants in there? Freedom of information law. Total number of sick days, the total number of hours the supervising Judge Alex Renzi, 7th Judicial District, New York State Supreme Court, have accumulated by the number of sick days, the number of hours. I said to him when I was in New York State Supreme Court, you got to go all the way to Atlanta to get your JD? Because that's where he went, Emory Law School. What a joke. Freedom of Information Law. Total number of sick days and total number of hours employees of the Pemberton Court have accumulated by the number of sick days and number of hours. What's the answer, Paul C. Metzer and James Smiley Jr.? Do you postpone court because you have a sick day? Kathleen Miller, you've been sexually harassed at the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. I've asked you that repeatedly. Do you know another Monmouth County Sheriff's Office employee that's been sexually harassed? Freedom of Information Law. The cost taxpayers of Monmouth County Sheriff Todd Baxter suspended taxpayer dollars settled employment-related discrimination lawsuits failed to comply with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. When I'd be on Capitol Hill, I'd go to this bar called Bull Feathers that's right next to the House Rayburn building, and staffers talk about what happens in the office. And I would hear story after story about what was going on in congressional offices. That really was horrifying. And that didn't even compare to what happens in Albany. Albany's a whole new level of disgusting and sick behavior by legislative staff and other staff and other employees at the Capitol. Is this sexual harassment at the Sheriff's Office? Tell me what the answer is. Freedom of Information Law. The cost taxpayers of Monmouth County District Attorney Sandra Doorley expended taxpayer dollars to settle employment-related discrimination lawsuits fair to comply with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Do you know who noticed the answer? Julie Hahn, who's now on Monmouth County Court. Where she's in there, where she's not the victor, where she didn't win. The state legislature, the Assembly and Senate need to reform these laws here that allow a judge to be on a court when the judge is not the victor. I did not know that. Despite my employment in Albany for the majority of the government, you could be on a court when you have not won an election. I think it was 17% of the vote or 19% of the vote. And Alex Renzi, who was the victor, is in there with 24% of the vote. So the Attorney Grievance Committee is on East Avenue. And if you can eject yourself from corruption, incompetence, fanaticism, Sandra Doorley, and disclose the names of my prosecutor's house, this is who I'm going to go to seek their disbarment. And your disbarment, Sandra Doorley, because you're unleashing your repulsive criminal district attorney's office upon me, where I've been in jail 6 times, and 6 times these prosecutors have not talked in court. Not one syllable. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? Sandra Doorley, Freedom of Information Law. The number of complaints written or filed by defendants about attorneys' employees at the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, with the 4th Judicial Department Attorney Grievance Committee. What's the answer? That weapon can be used, Todd Baxter, by your employees at any point to murder a citizen. And in self-defense, what's the basic marksmanship? Answer me. Freedom of Information Law. What is the basic marksmanship requirement for employees at the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter? You got your $0 freak here. How many sheriff's offices in the state of New York, 62 counties, have an employee when you look at the payroll, it says $0? I believe he's the only one. He's the only freak. In the entire state of New York, it's 62 counties and 62 sheriff's offices that's paid $0. Are you paid private money, Michael Rather, to go into the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office? I have not yet looked at the campaign contributions for you, Todd Baxter, and you, Sandra Doorley. But when I go to, I believe it's the Board of Elections, State Board of Elections, whoever the local organization is, I will look at the dispersals, and if there's a check in there from Michael Rather's name is on there, and it says $50,000, you're paying him private money to go into the sheriff's office. And how's that explained? And if that's the case, if Michael Rather is being paid money by your campaign accounts you formed in 2017 and 2021 when you ran for re-election, you cannot remain in office. You will have to resign by paying private money to an employee to go into a public office building that's a sheriff's office. Freedom of Information Law. Today in your Monmouth County Sheriff Todd Baxter rehired Michael Rather after his 20-year career ended on January 1, 2018, and sent to the email and address listed below the documentation signed by Sheriff Baxter, rehire Rather. Documentation signed by Sheriff Baxter, rehire Rather. What's not to understand, you skinhead stooge and party switcher? And you do fail to understand because you're corrupt. Freedom of Information Law. This is corruption, fanaticism I never thought that I'd experience in my life. I'm walking through the parking lot for the 4,000th time, the neighbor shot screaming at me, a 50-year-old man who lives with his mother. Shannemeyer calls me, and then you decided to use this technology on this building at 2025 Penfield Road. That is a surveillance device, and that's why Elliot Roth, who works there, says to me, going to be arrested. Shannemeyer tells Steve Desmond and Brock Colatrine Lawn Care, ride your tractor by Christopher Trichester's residence. If he comes out of his residence, we're going to arrest him. That's not a crime. I come outside, I tell Desmond nobody owns that land, and walk back in my residence. When I was driven downtown after the handcuffs went on and 6 of your fellow psychopaths were there, Your Monroe County Sheriff Office employee came to my jail cell where I was locked in there and I couldn't reach the toilet and I urinated myself, and he showed me on his phone the video taken of me from the surveillance device at 2025 Penfield Road. Todd Baxter, if there's confusion about what I just said to you, you can contact me here at 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604. This is lunatic fringe, and this is sickness, and this is the fanaticism of you party-switching stooge, psychopath Todd Baxter, Freedom of Information Law. The cost of a surveillance device purchased with taxpayer dollars by Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter and affixed to a building at 2025 Penfield Road to monitor Christopher Child, just 26 Sandra Farm Drive, walks through the parking lot next to the building, and that's the lunatic fringe. It's not a high-resolution photo, but that's it. I'm not going to hold it up again in the interest of time. But I have a better photo that's more clear. Again, why you're a buffoon and a stooge and why you're fleecing taxpayers. I don't care if this is a private event. When I ask you if this is tax dollars, you respond to me as a private again in that delusional, psychotic 1984 to you. I don't care if it's a private event. Is this tax dollars? Freedom of Information Law. The cost for photography session photograph 10 Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees underwater in a pool approved by Sheriff Baxter. These are your employees. Todd Baxter. Corruption requires repetition. These are your employees here. This was on your Facebook page, and it was elsewhere too. Did you expend taxpayer dollars to take this photograph? Does the American flag in the background has to be set up? It has to be staged. Photographer. You don't have an official photographer at the sheriff's office. What's the answer? And I believe that when Thomas P. DiNapoli looks at this, it'll be a reason why you could be audited, where he'll think he needs to be audited because what's he doing with taxpayer dollars? Because this is an absolute and complete disgrace. Just like your out-of-state travel. There's out-of-state travel that I know of, Ryan Fisher in Atlanta, Georgia, and then there's general out-of-state travel, such as the Undersheriff's Training Conference in Saratoga. What are you doing? If, in fact, pardon me, I do not know if you went to Saratoga. I do not know if you went to Saratoga with the Undersheriff's Training Conference. Did you? I'm going to get to that for you. Freedom of Information Law. The cost for a hotel and plane ticket for Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher attending the Super Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia, February 3rd, 2019. I do know Ryan Fisher was in Atlanta, Georgia, because this is him right here. When he's down here in Atlanta, Georgia, with his K9 Lola right here, that's one less Monroe County Sheriff Office employee you have driving the roads in Monroe County to enforce the law. What is he doing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for not just any football game, the biggest football game in the universe once a year, the Super Bowl? Did you expend taxpayer dollars for the hotel room? Did you expend taxpayer dollars for the plane ticket? You're tweeting about it. I'm not going to read that again in the interest of time. Ridiculous. There he is tweeting about it. You want people to know about it. You don't even know how to be corrupt. When you're going to be corrupt, Todd Baxter, don't tweet about your corruption. That's the state of New York flag, Excelsior, ever higher. In 2003, less than 20 years ago, this was still the flag in Georgia. And here he is. When I say go into the media, when you're going to be corrupt, Todd Baxter, send your employee 1,000 plus miles away from Rochester, New York. Don't go to the media and hyperventilate to the media. This is what I'm demanding about Ryan Fisher in Atlanta, Georgia. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation or voucher or other documentation signed by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter purchased an airline ticket and hotel room from Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher to travel to Atlanta, Georgia for the Super Bowl on February 3rd, 2019. What is wrong with you? Do you understand that human beings in Monroe County are taxpayers? And the taxpayers of Monroe County paid for Ryan Fisher to not do his job in Monroe County under your duly elected leadership of the sheriff's office. The answer is you don't understand because you're corrupt. Freedom of Information Law. The cost for the care and feeding Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees Ryan Fisher's German Shepherd Lola during his trip to Atlanta, Georgia on February 3rd, 2019. You're overweight, Todd Baxter, and I would guess that 50%, even 75% of your Monroe County Sheriff Office employees are overweight. And the fact that you're a veteran, you have taken the PT test, and you understand at least 3 times a week there's running, push-ups, and sit-ups. You don't demand any type of physical fitness from your Monroe County Sheriff Office employees. And because you don't, you, Todd Baxter, are directly responsible for placing the lives of your own employees at risk because they're not physically fit and they do not have the strength in their bodies to repel violent criminals in a physical confrontation. Freedom of Information Law. What are the physical training standards or requirements at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, and is there a standard requirement? Doesn't include running, push-ups, and sit-ups. Running. Your employee should be able to run 2 miles in 24 minutes, which is easy to do. Do 40 push-ups and 40 sit-ups in 20 minutes, in 2 minutes, which is easy to do. That's the basics for the Army. Freedom of Information Law. What's the state of violence at Monroe County Jail? I'm going to write this in a different way. I perhaps could have 1,000 words, 5,000 words just on this because I have been attacked at Monroe County Jail. I'm a Monroe County Jail Office employee, and I have seen violence there too. I've seen violence at Livingston County Jail. Every single foil I'm writing for you, I will write the same foil for Sheriff Thomas J. Doorley in Livingston County. Because what am I doing in Livingston County when I lived in Penfield, New York? You would not be safe at Monroe County Jail. That's what I was told. From the Monroe County Sheriff Office employees that work at the jail because of what I've done to you to that point. Freedom of Information Law. The number of criminal actions where an inmate appeared in court for a criminal charge where the criminal act or charge occurred at Monroe County Jail from January 2023 to January 10, 2023, which is today. Arresting officers accountable for facts and circumstances of an arrest. Just like when your employee exited his vehicle when I was at Wegmans with 5 vehicles and 10 fellow psychopaths ran at me, knocked me to the ground, my head slammed against the concrete pavement for which I had to get an MRI. Does Sheriff Todd K. Baxter assign arresting officer to every arrest for the accountable for facts and circumstances of the arrest? The answer is no, because you have blue wall silence. Freedom of Information Law. Name and charge of every minute Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter's Monroe County Jail from January 2018 to January 10, 2023. Separate your violent inmates from your non-violent inmates, you psychopath. Do you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, hire employees at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office based on race or gender? What's the answer? It's so simple to answer that. Do you, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, hire employees at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office based on race or gender? What's the answer? It's so simple to answer that. Tell me these names of the prosecutors assigned to my court appearances, my concocted charges, fiction, and lies from your office, Sandra Doorley. Tell me these names, you nauseating, sickening diva from hell. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester with John P. Lomenzo Jr. Penfield Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Is this Julie Hahn or is this not Julie Hahn? I'll contact her and ask her directly. Total silence as I'm delivered to Monroe County Jail. Documentation for the case for Christopher Chichester from Paul C. Metro Penfield Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Quote, the prosecutor's not backing down, end quote. That's what Regina Harper, the Monroe County Public Defender, told me. What's the name of the prosecutor that's not backing down? What's the name of this boy? This boy is a fanatic. The prosecutor's not backing down. This is why he's a fanatic. Why doesn't he call me to your district attorney's office for an interview so he can talk to me about lies and fiction? And the answer, Sandra Doorley, is you love lies and fiction. And you cannot understand innocence. Innocence is alien to you, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. That's why I have to have a conviction integrity unit. Freedom of Information Law. What are the names of these two? Because there were 2 females standing behind me. I believe that they're my prosecutors. Where I'm told I'm finished and done, which is not true. Because you're going to use Jamie Belliard of Pretrial Service Corporation to concoct another fiction for me or something like that, which is going to be a lie. Well, I'm going to be in court again for you just to declare me guilty in front of a corrupt judge, and I'll be in jail again where I'm not told how long I'm going to be in jail. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester, New York State Supreme Court for Alex Renzi. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Send me a list of defendants, Paul C. Lomenzo, because this is not a list of defendants. I say send me a list of defendants, so that's 1 page. It's such a joke. I'm going to be back on here about this and have more language about you, Paul C. Lomenzo. I haven't opened that because I'm going to be sickened when I look at that. Oh, it's the defendants of Penfield Town Court for Paul C. Lomenzo from January 2021 to January 10, 2023. A list of defendants in Penfield Town Court for James Ewing Jr. from January 2021 to January 10, 2023. A list of defendants in Penfield Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr. from January 2015 to December 31, 2019. This is why I say this is a joke. Penfield, I want to see who appeared in front of John P. Lomenzo Jr., who's retired. My neighbor had appeared in front of John P. Lomenzo Jr. He hates John P. Lomenzo Jr. with such intensity that I also share. He uses the most grotesque 4-letter word to accurately describe John P. Lomenzo Jr. that I'm not going to use. which I'm confident you with the district attorney's office, sheriff's office, and Pamela Town Court can figure out what that word is. List of defendants of Pamela Town Court for John P. Lorenzo Jr. from January 2015 to December 31, 2019. That's 5 years. Send it to me. I'll tell the United States Attorney for Western District of New York, Trinity Ross, attorneys at the Department of Justice who work for Merrick Garland, that you're refusing. It's a public proceeding. Do you understand that, Paul C. Metzer? List of defendants in the New York State Supreme Court for supervising Judge Alex Renzi from January 2021 to December 31, 2022. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send everything I'm doing to the 18 members of the hackocracy over there on New York State Supreme Court. I think it's 18. It has to be because that's the number that's in my head, but it's in that vicinity. I'm trying to be precise and accurate in my language. 18 Supreme Court justices, and he's the supervising judge? That is insane. I don't know what it's like in Albany County, where, like I said, where I lived for 10 years. But I'm going to find out if there's a hackocracy, just like in Albany County, similar to Monroe County. 18 Supreme Court judges? Because there's lies and fiction from the sheriff's office. That's why there has to be so many of them there, and other police departments and agencies. I've never seen a hatred for the cops in the United States of America like I do today. There is such an unrelenting hatred for citizens, for the police. And it's because of cops just like you, Todd Baxter. Freedom of Information Law. The, quote, defective documents, end quote, cited by John P. Lorenzo Jr. in the Democrat Chronicle newspaper about the case of Daniel Laus III. It's just about an hour and 5 minutes. I'm not going to go about that. You know what I'm talking about. Accused child rapist he releases because he knows the family. He doesn't recuse himself. That's the corruption of Benford Town Court. Freedom of Information Law. The cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County, New York State by employees of Monroe County Sheriff's Office Todd Baxter. That can remove you from office. The cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County, New York State by employees of Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra. That can remove you from office. Cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County, New York State by employees of New York State Supreme Court, 7th Judicial District, Supervisor Judge Alex Renzi. That can remove him from office. Cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County, New York State by employees of the Pemberton Town Court, Paul C. Metzer, James P. Jr., and John P. Lorenzo Jr. That can remove you from office. If you're going to these ridiculous conferences in Albany, Washington, D.C., and you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to these conferences, you cannot remain in office. You have to resign. Such as you, Todd Baxter, going to Watkins Glen. I know you went to Watkins Glen. I'm using the previous Freedom of Information Law documents because there's places that you've been that I don't know. At the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office, Pemberton Town Court, New York State Supreme Court. That's why I read them. Where have you been? And I know you went to Watkins Glen. You're sitting on a race car, you buffoon, stooge, skinhead, and joke. How much did you pay for it? And who'd you take with you? You Jonestown Kool-Aid drinkers and your groupies to tell you how terrific and wonderful you are, you skinhead. Freedom of Information Law. The cost of the trip to Watkins Glen, New York by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter did the Monroe County Sheriff's Office expend taxpayer dollars for a hotel, plane ticket per diem. Hotel, plane ticket per diem, how much was it? If there's no hotel, that means you didn't stay there overnight. If you didn't go by plane, you drove there, that's the answer. Per diem. What's the answer? You have walking around money. Freedom of Information Law. The total number of employees that escorted Sheriff Todd K. Baxter was trip to Watkins Glen, New York. This is the District Attorneys Association in the state of New York summer conference. Did you go to the Sandra, Doorley? Did you go to this Perry Duckles? Did you send anybody? I don't know. I'm demanding you tell me. Freedom of Information Law. The cost of taxpayers of District Attorney Sandra Doorley attended in Saratoga Springs, New York, the District Attorneys Association in the state of New York summer conference. Freedom of Information Law. Final foil. The cost of taxpayers of Saratoga Springs, New York, of Sheriff Todd K. Baxter approved the expenditure of tax dollars to attend the Undersheriff's Training Conference at the Gideon Putnam Hotel in Saratoga Springs, New York. You have a new Undersheriff. It's not Corey Brown. I don't know who the new Undersheriff is, but I'm going to contact the new Undersheriff and ask him if he went. Prison Law, have you ever been arrested? This is my ex-girlfriend, Laura Island, asked when we lived in Webster. This is my little guy, Shih Tzu. You're coming to my residence to man my dog, Todd Baxter? I walked my dog for 7 years and 4,000 times behind the residence, 26 Sanders Farm Drive. One day, the back window from this shack, the Shaw Law Firm at 2041 Penfield Road, opens. A woman is screaming at me. I walk over there after I take my little guy in. I asked to speak to Nayraj Shah and Layla Kumar Shah, 50-year-old man who was with 70-year-old mother. They refused. An hour later, there's a familiar pounding on my door. 2 Monroe County Sheriff Office employees are there with Penfield Animal Control, and you're demanding my dog. I said, you'll have to kill me to take my little guy from me. I was able to adopt him from the Saints of Lollipop Farm Humane Society. Because when Laura Riley, my ex-girlfriend, and I were asked, have you been arrested? The answer was no. You cannot adopt a dog. You have a criminal background. You will not allow that to happen. Do you understand the love that people have for their dogs, and I'm nothing special. You're supposed to love your dog, just like you're supposed to love your mother and father and your friends and family members. I said, you'll have to kill me to take my little guy from me. I shut the door. I went back to his dog bed. My mother and father got me. He was shaking on the dog bed. I picked him up. I put him on my shoulder like I always do. I had to keep it together. You're coming to my residence based on one phone call to the man, my dog, Todd Baxter? Are you confused why I call you a fanatic, degenerate, psychopath, and sociopath? And you are. You're a fanatic, degenerate, sociopath, and psychopath, Todd Baxter, because one phone call, and there you are demanding my dog. So, never give up. Winston Churchill. So I'm buying phones so I can create new Gmail accounts so I can talk to you. And I will, in the next 48 hours, have this link, and I'm going to send it to you. It's going to update the day. I hope to have this on January 12th. Or it's going to say the same thing. Comply with the attached PDF dated today, this day. And I'm going to update it for January 14th. So, this is stacked. You haven't complied with any of these. Right here. This year, this is December 14th, refused. This year is December 16th, refused. This year is December 22nd, refused. There's at least 50 in every one of these. This year is December 28th, refused. This year is January 5th, refused. This year is January 8th, refused. The Freedom of Information Law. Every single one, you refused because you're corrupt. So, now, I will continue to be in contact with you, demanding information, and you will continue to refuse. You receive these documents here, like this one here, which was called Amoral, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, District Attorney Sandra, Doorley, Judge Alex Renzi. So, on this here, January 3rd, 2023, demanded the names of my prosecutors of silence. And you refused over a week ago. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, comply with the law and send me the information I'm demanding. Send me the names of my prosecutors of silence, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, and you will continue to refuse because you're corrupt. My name is Christopher Chichester. I'm an innocent man.